Well, if you've been following this saga of Camille and his falafel balls, then you will remember that we had a situation. The situation was you were wondering how many falafel balls you could make if you had $100. Because you really like falafel balls. So you're trying to work that out. How many falafel balls can you make with $100? Now, we worked out before that every extra falafel ball costs $2 to make. So the cost of falafel balls seemed to be 2 times B if B is the number of falafel balls. So it was 2 times B. But then Camille reminded you that you also have to buy the falafel machine as well, which costs $30. So we had the cost of falafel balls is $30 plus 2 times B. And that was an expression, and then we wrote an equation saying the total cost of all the falafel balls is 30 plus 2 times B. And B is the number of balls. Okay. I think we can skip that slide because we just said it. Now, so here was our equation. C equals, we'll rewrite it. I'll just change the order a little bit. 2 times B plus 30. Now, the last time I made a video in this series, we actually substituted. We learned substituting, which is replacing these letters, with numbers. Now, if you have $100 to spend, because that's the question, isn't it? If you have $100, how many falafel balls can you make? If you have $100 to spend, you can now afford a cost of $100. So you can pay the cost of $100, and then you'll get a certain amount B of falafel balls. So to find out how many falafel balls you can make, what we're doing now is instead of writing C, we've substituted 100. So down here, instead of C, that's the only change, isn't it? Everything else is the same. The only difference is instead of C, we have 100. So now we have an equation with one letter that we don't know what this is. Now, before we had a rule, and you can have, with this rule over here, you can have lots of different combinations of different numbers of falafel balls, and each one is going to have a different cost. So this rule is really a connection between the number of falafel balls and the cost. But this one's a little bit different, isn't it? Because you already know the cost, and now you've got this B here. And there's only one correct answer for B now. There's a number. B is a number, but we don't know what it is. Now that you know the cost, that will help us to work out what B is. And we say we're solving the equation. If you work out what B is, if you write B equals something, and you write a number here, then you've solved the equation. You've worked out what B is. And keep in mind, you can't do that with this. But you can do it with this one. Because there's only one unknown. If there's only one letter that you don't know what it is, you can solve the equation. I've just kind of answered my own question here, haven't I? Can we solve this one? Yes, we can. Because there's only one letter that we don't know. There's only one unknown. All right. Okay. So I'll leave this slide blank. We're going to come back to it. And I'm going to show you an app that lets us solve equations. And it kind of shows you how it's doing it. And what we're going to do is we're going to solve the equations using the app. It's a terrifying noise. And then we are going to come back here and solve it with the method of algebra. Okay. I might actually mute my audio. Hopefully that will actually work so that you don't hear any terrifying noises, because my computer has decided that it doesn't like me anymore and it's going to try and scare me with horrific noises. Okay. So here's an equation. This is a little bit different to the one that we had before. It's got x instead of b. It's got 5 instead of 30. And it's got 9 instead of 100. So everything's different except for the 2. But let's try and solve this equation. So the first thing we have to do on this app is to actually make it. So here you've got scales. And if you don't know what scales are, they weigh two things. So you've got two things and you're trying to work out if they're the same as each other, the same weight. And if they're the same weight, then the scales are balanced. But if on what's on the left is heavier, then that's going to go down and unbalance the scales because this one's heavier, so it pushes it down. So this is like an equation. And the reason why is because the left-hand side of an equation is equal to the right-hand side. And you'll see when the two sides are equal to each other, the scales are balanced. Okay, so let's set this up first. So we've got two x's on the left-hand side. So we're going to put an x on the left, and we'll put another x on the left. Now we've got two x's. We've got 5 ones on the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see it says 2x plus 5 here, so it's correct. And on the right, we've got 9 ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see, by the way, that the left-hand side is heavier right now. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now the two sides are balanced. They're equal to each other. All right. So let's click the tick. We're ready to move on. Now, this is what we have to do is we have to get these x's, we have to get these ones away from the x's. And let me show you why. Remember, so we've got 2x plus 5 equals 9. I'll write that up here. 2x plus 5 equals 9. Now remember, I said when you tried to solve our equation before, if we could write the unknown equals something, then we've solved it. So in this case, if we... Oh, I can't write here. I think my face is over there. If we write... Let's just draw a little box to stop me doing that again. If we write x equals something and we write a number here, if we can work out what that number is, then we'll have solved it. Now what that means is we have to get the 2 and the 5 away from the left-hand side. We have to get rid of them. Because we just want an x on the left-hand side. We don't want any 2s. We don't want any 5s. We want to get rid of all of them. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So we're going to get rid of all of these numbers over here, first of all. We don't want them. Now, to do that, because that will get rid of, that will get rid of the 5. We'll get rid of the 5 ones. Now, let me tell you something very important about algebra. Oh, I think my PowerPoint has just crashed. Wonderful. All right. Something very important about algebra. In algebra, you have to do the same. If you're going to do something, you have to do it to both of the sides. The reason for that is now you can add and subtract things from both sides. Now if I add 1 to both sides, if I add something to one side, it'll tip over because that'll be heavier. if I add something to the other side, it'll tip over as well. I can add something to a side, but I have to do it to both sides at the same time. The reason I'm telling you that is because I have to take away all of these, and to do that I can cancel them out by adding negatives to them. So see how that cancelled that out. But also see how it went to the other side as well. So you always have to do something to both sides. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, that's okay, that's fine. We're going to go through it a little bit later. Right, but we're basically just getting rid of these ones by cancelling them out with negatives. Okay, so now we've gotten rid of all the ones over here. And we don't have 2x plus 5 anymore, we just have 2x. But see how the right-hand side has changed as well as a result. Okay, let's move on. Because we still have 2x, we don't have... Remember, we're trying to just write x. We're trying to have x on this side and nothing else. But I've got a 2. How do we get rid of that? Well, this is 2 times x. And if it's 2 times x... then you actually have to divide by 2 to get rid of it. So, remember again, if I divide this side by 2, it'll get lighter, and then this side will be heavier. So we're actually we're doing the same thing to both of the sides. We're dividing them both by 2. And what this is saying is that x, you can see that x matches up to this over here. So x is actually equal to 2. Both of the x's, they match up to 2 of the ones. So x, it is saying x equals, so x equals 2. Okay. Let's just do one more. So, how do we do this? Home. Let's do one more. So, do a random one. So we'll set up the equation. 4 x's on the left. 3 negatives on the right. Oh. I did this wrong, didn't I? Not 4 ones on the left. 4 x's on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4 x's on the left. 3 negatives on the left. And 1 positive on the right. Now, we need to get rid of these numbers here, first of all. So, let's do that. We have to cancel the negatives, we have to add some positives. Alright. Now, we'll move on to the next step. Now, because this is 4x, 4 times x, we have to divide by 4. And let's do that. Now, what this is saying is that x is 1. All of these x's just match up to 1. So x equals 1. Okay, now I'm going to show you what to do. Now I'll see if I can get back to my kebab slides. Alright, we'll just go back to here and we'll try and solve this equation. Okay, so how do we solve this equation? We've got 100 equals 2b plus... I'm just going to rewrite this slightly. Now, if these two things are equal to each other, it doesn't actually matter which side is the left-hand side and which side is the right-hand side. Oh. Okay. Now, remember we need to get rid of the 2 and we need to get rid of the 30. So what we do is now if we were on that little program back there would be 30 little plus 1 blocks. There'd be 30 of them, wouldn't there? And we need to get rid of them by putting 30 little minus 1 blocks. And that would cancel it out. So what we're actually going to do in when we're doing it just with paper and pen is we're going to minus 30 from this side. So we're going to write 2b plus 30. So you just rewrite the line just like it was before, but you make a change, and that change is minusing 30. Okay, and that is going to get rid of the 30 because, well, what's 30 minus 30? It's just 0, isn't it? So later on, that's going to cancel out. Now, but there's one thing you have to do first before you keep going on to the next line, which is, now, if you look at the camera, my video on the top right, if I have a scales here, I've just subtracted 30 from the left-hand side. So that's like doing this to the scales. The bottom scale is now lower. So that means I can't really say that equals 100 anymore because they're not equal to each other anymore. I've just minus 30. The way you fix that is you minus 30 from the other side as well. So now they're going to be equal to each other if I write minus 30 here. That's going to fix the situation. They're both going to be equal to each other. And this is like the little ones going out to both sides. You have to do it to both sides. So minus 30 on both sides. All right. So we said this would cancel out and it'd be equal to 0. So we're just going to clean up in the next line and simplify and get rid of this. And 2b plus 0, if you add 0 to something, it just stays the same. So that's basically it. 2b equals 100 minus 30 is 70. So now we've got 2b. Remember, we need to solve it. We need to write b equals something. So what does b equal? Well, b, the way we're going to do that is, now we've got 2 times b. That means we need to divide it by 2. And I hope you're noticing that we're always doing the opposite here. When we had plus 30, we did the opposite, which is we subtract 30. So in this case, we've got 2 times b. We're going to divide it by 2, which is the opposite of timesing. Now, we've got our scales. We've just divided the left-hand side by 2. How do we fix this situation? Because they're not equal to each other anymore. We have to divide the other side by 2 as well. Okay. So finally, now when you divide 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So that means these two really, they just cancel out. This is like when you've got fractions and you've got a common factor on the top and the bottom. They just cancel out. So now I have b equals 70 divided by 2 is 35. So this has been quite a long adventure. We've had terrifying computer noises. We've had PowerPoints crashing. We've gone to Camille's Kebabs. We've come away with a lot of questions. And we have found at the end that b equals 35. What does this mean again? Keep in mind that b was the number of falafel balls. So that means if you can spend $100 in this situation, you can make 35 falafel balls. Now keep in mind, I'm not really teaching you how to make falafel balls because I don't really know. What I am teaching you is how do you solve, what does it mean to solve equations? It means to work out what the unknown is, so b. And I'm also teaching you how to solve equations. How do we do that? What you can do is you can do things to both sides of the equation. You can minus 30 from both sides. Or you can divide by 2. Divide both sides by 2. And you'll see later that you can also times both sides. And you can also add something to both sides. So that is how you solve equations. I could say a lot more, but I think we should do one more example. I know it's gone on for a long time. Let's just do one more example. We'll do an easier equation. Now we'll do 3y minus 5 equals, what's going to have nice numbers? 7. Okay. So if I have minus 5, remember you do the opposite. So you add 5. So you can add 5 to this side, and you can add 5 to this side. Now if I write that out properly, you're just rewriting this line, but you're just you're just writing one extra thing to the left-hand side and one extra thing to the right-hand side. So you rewrite it, but you also write plus 5 because we're adding 5 and writing plus 5 over here. The reason we're doing that is it's the opposite of minusing 5, and we know that minus 5 plus 5, these two cancel out. And so if we clean this up on the next line, so what you're doing is make a change, then you clean it up. So now with these two cancel out, they just equal 0. So we've only got 3y equals 7 plus 5 is 12. Now, next line, we make a change. Okay, so the change we're making is we want to get rid of this 3. And how do we do that? It's 3 times y. This is 3 times y, so we have to divide by 3. So, really, I'll just rewrite it again. 3y divided by 3 equals, remember, you have to do it to both sides, 12 divided by 3. And now next step is clean up. Whoops. Clean up. All right, so to clean up, you cancel out the 3's, and then you've just got y, that's what we want, equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. And that's it. That's how to solve equations. I hope you got something out of that. If not, you can rewatch sections of it, or you can ask for help, or just watch some other videos, or find any method you want to understanding how to solve equations. But I have to emphasize that this is probably the method where this method helps you to understand what you're doing. And if you have other methods, it's possible that they will you'll make more mistakes with those other methods. So this is my recommendation, that you learn this method if you can. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you with the next series.